What in the world is going on in the current state of the Nashville real estate market, and do we have to be worried about a recession? I am tackling all of that and more in today's video. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin Martin and I am a local Nashville real estate agent, and I specialize in helping savvy sellers who want to sell right and sell smart, as well as helping out-of-staters looking to relocate to the Middle Tennessee area. If this is your first time stopping by my channel, thank you so much. Please feel free to click subscribe down below so that you are notified anytime I release new video content. So in today's video, we're talking about the current state of the Nashville real estate market. What are we seeing? I know in my last video, I talked about a shift that we have been seeing in the market from April into May. So what are our numbers from May telling us? I'm going to tackle that. Also, I know with all of the news headlines out there, there's a lot of fear around recession and what does that mean for the housing market. I'm also going to be answering that. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So I know in the last video, like I just said, I mentioned that we were dealing with a shift in the market, and the numbers speak to that. They're actually saying, yes, that is indeed true. So if we actually look at the numbers and we compare May of 2022 to May of 2021, the actual total number of sales, we were down 2% from the number of sales that we had in May of 2021. So that does start to speak to a slowdown. Now, on top of that, because people start to ask me like, okay, so what is leading to this shift, right? So of course we got to talk about interest rates. That's kind of like the elephant in the room. Of course, that is contributing to some of the slowdown that we're seeing, but then also another big factor is that inventory is up significantly. In fact, we have, according to the Greater Nashville Realtors, we have the most amount of housing inventory on the market since November of 2020. So we are seeing a much greater number of homes actually coming to the market. In fact, we actually, if you were comparing the amount of inventory that we had on the market in May of last year versus May of this year, we actually had 1,500 more homes on the market this year versus last year, which we are still seeing significant demand, especially from buyers looking to relocate. Like I've said in previous videos, the reasons why buyers are relocating, they aren't changing anytime soon. So we are continuing to see that really strong demand. And as I've mentioned before, whether you've seen another video or not, we are expected to have another 200,000 people move to the Middle Tennessee area by 2025. So we do know demand still coming. And then another report out of the University of Tennessee says that another 1 million people are going to be moving to the state of Tennessee, and 57% of that is expected to land in the Middle Tennessee area, and that's supposed to happen by 2040. So all of that to say, we do continue to see a strong demand. We continue to see a strong demand of people relocating here. But the good news is that we have a significant amount of more inventory on the market now versus what we saw a year ago, which is great news, especially for buyers. Yes, I know about interest rates. I know that they have gone up. So of course that can be seen as a detriment. However, the fact that there is more inventory on the market means that you have more options to look at. We are starting to see sellers having to do price reductions and homes that are lasting more than just the first weekend on the market. So the conditions for the most part are starting to lean more favorably for buyers than what we had seen in the past 15, 16 months or so. Does that mean we're shifting into a buyer's market? No, because if you actually look at our days on market and our month supply, which is how we determine whether we're in a buyer or seller's market, we are still most definitely sitting in a seller's market. It's just we're not at that unsustainable pace that we had basically been living in for over the last year. So what we are starting to see, price reductions. Like I said, we're starting to see homes sit on the market a little longer. Now, does this mean that multiple offer situations aren't happening anymore? No, certain homes we are absolutely still seeing multiple offers. It's just whereas last year you may have been competing against 30 offers or so, now maybe it's closer to somewhere like 3, 4, 5. Again, it depends on the property and it depends on the price point. Whereas I know a home that was sitting under 300,000 just this past weekend, and it ended up with 13 offers. So there is still demand. But a year ago, that 13 could have easily been 33. So we are in some homes, particularly if the home is priced right and marketed well, it is absolutely still going pretty quickly. But because we have more inventory, there's more options for buyers, and that means that you have a little bit more of a competitive edge when it comes to shopping in this market. Now, what does this mean for sellers? Well, is it now still a good time to sell? Yes. Here's the caveat though. Because we've seen this happen, we've seen because of the way our market was moving and the way that things were just turning over so fast. I mean, truly when I say the last like 14, 15, 16 months were bananas, it was wild, to the fact that some homes weren't even making it to the market and they were going exceedingly over list price. We were seeing crazy things happen. So if you were looking to sell back then, there's a good chance you could have gotten a crazy offer. Now is still a good time to sell. You just can't be as aggressive as sellers were last year. And what I mean by that is because other homeowners started to see how aggressive offers were coming in for their neighbor's home, then they started thinking that they could more aggressively price their home. What I mean by that is that, when homeowners last year were seeing their neighbor's house go for exceedingly over list price, certain homeowners felt like they could be really aggressive and get whatever price they wanted. And in some respects, maybe they could get it, maybe not, but sellers were sitting much more in a driver's seat in a competitive position last year to dictate price. Now it's in a seller's best interest to still, and I've been saying this for a long time, if you are a seller, it is always a really good idea to price at market value or slightly under to help drive the most interest, which can drive multiple offers, right? Whereas sellers were trying to go over market value last year because they knew there was such demand and such low inventory, they could get almost pretty much what they wanted. So yes, it's still a great time to sell because there is still the demand. It's just you can't be quite as aggressive as you could have potentially been last year. It's still a great time to sell. Like I said, people are still moving here. There is still the demand. It's just the conditions have started to change a little bit, but it is still predominantly a seller's market. Also, like I said, yes, we are down 2% in terms of the number of homes sold from this May versus last May. But in addition to that, if you look at the number of contracts that we had pending headed into June of last year versus the contracts pending heading into June of this year, we actually have about 400 less homes under contract than we did last year. So that does continue to speak to the fact that we are dealing with a slight slowdown. Now, when you start to talk about slowdowns, when you start to hear all the media reports, of course, headlines are going to start to talk about a recession. Is it coming? Are we going to lose home values? Because I know, as I was just talking to sellers saying, is it still a good time to sell? Once you start to hear the word recession, it can cause PTSD for a lot of people, especially if you think back to 2008. So what do we need to know about a recession? Because here's the thing, I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot say, yes, we're going to be in a recession, or how. I can't give you that information. But what I can give you, though, is historical data that takes a look at when a recession hits, what happens to home values. But one thing to know is that even if a recession happens, a recession does not automatically equal a housing crisis. And I can actually prove it to you. Take a look at this graph right here. So if you take a look at this graph right here on the screen, it shows you that there have been 6 recessions in this country over the past 4 decades. And out of those 6, only two, so less than half, were where we saw home values actually decrease. However, 4 times out of those 6 recessions, 4 of them, home values actually continued to appreciate. But of course, if you're looking at the graph, like I just mentioned, PTSD from 2008, that seems to be the only recession that people remember. The reason why people continue to remember 2008 is because it was so impactful for people and it was very damaging in many respects. So of course, it's easy to think recession, automatically think housing crisis. However, the data shows that in 4 out of 6 recessions, home values did continue to appreciate. So keep that in mind. Please do not let media headlines scare you. That is what they're there for. They're there to incite fear. And so just know that, again, I do not have a crystal ball to tell you exactly what's going to happen. But if you look at historical data, that does tell us that still 4 out of 6 recessions, home values still did continue to appreciate. And one thing I can tell you is actually Williamson County, where Brentwood, Franklin, Nolensville, Arrington, Thompson Station, part of Spring Hill, Fairview, that's Williamson County. For those that don't know, it is located just south of the heart of downtown Nashville. Downtown Nashville is in Davidson County, for those that don't know. But Williamson County actually fared far better than other parts of the state in terms of coming through 2008. They were a little less, they came out a little bit more unscathed than other counties because Williamson County actually fared fairly well even throughout 2008. So that is something to keep in mind, again, as you are starting to toss around the idea potentially of making a move to the Middle Tennessee area. Now, if you are thinking about making a move, let's actually take a look at some numbers and some data to help give you context of what you can expect if you think you're going to be starting your home search here pretty soon. Let's first talk about the average home sale price for Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville as of May of 2022. So let's first talk about Franklin. In Franklin, in May of 2022, the average home sale price for a single family home was $1,057,860, and that's actually up 37.5% from May of last year. So home values, yes, are still going up. Now let's take a look at Brentwood. In Brentwood, the average home sale price for a single family home was $1,289,441. That is an increase of 27.3% from the average home sale price in May of last year. And then let's take a look at Nolensville. In Nolensville, the average home sale price for a single family home in May of 2022 was $729,027. That was up 27.8% from the same time last year. So home values have continued to appreciate. Now, as we've already talked about appreciation during a potential recession. And we've also talked about how the market has shifted. So one thing to keep in mind is we do expect home values to continue to appreciate, just not nearly as dramatic as we've seen in the last 14 to 16 months. So home values are expected to continue to go up, and we are seeing that in our numbers. Now, like I've already talked about, we're seeing a shift, and we're seeing homes maybe not necessarily going as quickly, or some homes not going as quickly, right? But still, this next statistic will speak to the fact that just because homes might not be going as quickly, you still got to come in strong when it comes to price. So let's take a look at what the average percent of list price was for a single family home in Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville. In Franklin, it was 103.9%, which that was actually up 3.7% from the average percentage of list price sales for May of last year. In Brentwood, it's sitting at 103.7% of the list price. So again, going over list, and that's actually up 3.9% from what we were seeing last year. And then in Nolensville, we're sitting at 102.4%, which is up 1.9% from last year. So as you can see, for the most part, homes are still getting right there at list or going over, especially in a multiple offer. Now, there are always caveats to things that I say, depending on the housing, but just know that yes, our market has shifted. However, we are still seeing strong percentage of list sale prices. And then real quickly, let's also take a look at what the average price per square foot is for a single family home in Franklin, Brentwood, and Nolensville. So first, let's take a look at Franklin. The average price per square foot in Franklin, $319. Now in Brentwood, it's $297. And then in Nolensville, $246 price per square foot. And here's the thing that I will say, we're not gonna dive into it in today's video, but just know, in each of those communities, that is the average price per square foot for a single family home. However, we do know that at certain price points, that threshold, there's a threshold in which the average price per square foot actually has a significant change. So for Franklin, that's generally around the $800,000 to $900,000 range. We do see a decent jump in price per square foot. Brentwood, you're looking at about $1 million and above. That's where we again start to see that jump. And then in Nolensville, it starts to that jump actually is right there around $700,000. So to recap everything, yes, we have seen a shift in our market. We are slowing down slightly. There's much more inventory coming to the market. And with that, it means more opportunities for buyers. So even with interest rates going up, it's still a great time to buy, especially because you get to, if you get in, you get to ride that up. And should rates go back down at some point in the coming years, you could always have the opportunity to refinance, but it's always better to get in and start riding that appreciation up to start building that personal wealth. Now for sellers, yes, it is still a great time to sell, even with the word recession looming, because home prices still do continue to appreciate in at least 4 out of the last 6 recessions. So it is still a great time to sell, but just know that because of the shift in the market, that means that sellers don't really have the opportunity to say, hey, I don't need to do any pre-market prep. I'm gonna be super aggressive with my price. You don't really have that luxury anymore. It still requires doing the proper pre-market prep, the due diligence, in order to still put your best foot forward, make smart pricing choices, so that way you can ultimately end up with savvy seller success. It is still a good time to sell. Just remember, you can't be quite as super aggressive as say maybe some sellers were last year. So, and again, recession, don't have a crystal ball. However, it does not always equate decrease in home prices. And like I said, in 2008, Williamson County in particular fared much better than a lot of places. So hopefully that could help give you some comfort that even if we ended up in a bad situation, that at least Williamson County in general historically tends to trend and do better than other areas. So if you have any questions about moving or relocating to the Middle Tennessee area, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. All of my contact information is below. Generally, email is the best way to reach out initially so that we can set up a call to talk about your specific wants and needs. If you are curious about making a move and maybe you're not ready to start having a chat yet, I do have a free Nashville relocation guide down below. Feel free to grab that and then reach out whenever the time is right for you. Again, my name is Caitlin Martin. I'll see you guys next time.